Chapter 2. The Hive. The air felt heavy, and it pressed on him in his sleep, irritated his skin, and strained his lungs. At last he remembered he could open his eyes, and the almost darkness that greeted him was hollow. There was no window, only metal walls, a crack of light from under the door, and an outline of a desk. Spiridon held his breath and then slowly let it out, shifting in his unfamiliar bed. How long had he been asleep? The hours must be few. His head began to pound with a migraine, reminding Spiridon of weeks of forced sleep deprivation. He was alone. Who could he talk to? Spiridon forced himself to push his feet over the edge of the bed, head spinning. He sat there staring at the floor where his bare feet looked alien even to him. He touched the goo on his cheek and then cringed. He remembered gunfire and that woman. Spiridon was so tired it was almost painful. Who could he talk to? Would Whiskey be up at whatever hour this was? Maybe. A chill made his body shiver, and he reached out for his moth-eaten jumper, eventually finding it on the desk chair. He stared at an object on the desk, only distinguishable by the shred of light from under the door, slightly brassy looking. At length, he realised it was a lamp. Lighting the gas lamp, Spiridon shuffled closer to the door and opened it without a sound. The hall outside was softly illuminated, thick black wires running near the ceiling, but his attention was caught by a movement down the corridor. He held his breath and shrank back into his room. Spiridon couldn't remember the man's name, but he recognised him as a blue boy. Spiridon's father had shown him a photo of the man, and he knew him only for his signature blood-red hair. The comms man, yes, that was him. Proud, easily worried, smart. What was he doing? He carried a tray of what appeared to be food 2 doors down from Spiridon's, and he watched, wondering who he was visiting. Wait, that woman! She said she was close by. The man knocked on the door down the hall with a hesitant expression. Spiridon remembered his name.
Cedric Dogwood.
Cedric tapped again, a little louder, and then cleared his throat.
Hey, Jim. It's me. It's your shift now. I got some food for you.
There came no reply, or not one that Spiridon could hear, and Cedric scratched the back of his neck, still balancing the tray.
Okay, well, I'm coming in.
Cedric inched open the door and disappeared inside. Spiridon hung his head, touching his cheek again. He then held the back of his hand to his eyes. In the light, he looked over the tattoos there and raised his hand higher so his sleeve slipped down his arm. The writing was revealed to spread all down his arm as well. It spread over his entire body, and he wondered how everything fit together.
Stupid script.
Spiridon had no one to talk to, and he did not know Froxen Underground. He took one step into the hallway and then changed his mind. He glanced at where Cedric had disappeared, before retreating into his room.
Jim heard him, but she was too tired to even say hello, and turned her head only a little when Cedric entered. Jim mumbled a few non-committal sounds that meant absolutely nothing, and then slumped back into the pillow.
Sorry.
Cedric whispered, shutting the door again so everything was dark. He tiptoed closer and perched on the end of her bed. She could sense he was trying to locate her head in the darkness, his head turning this way and that, but she ignored it, sleep crawling over her again.
Jim?
What, Cedric?
The question came out harsher than she had meant it to, but she wasn't sorry.
It's your shift.
Growling, Jim reached out for her torch glove on the bedside table, becoming even more angered when she couldn't find it, and then cringed at the blinding light when she did. Gathering her senses, Jim grabbed up her pocket watch, the chain dangling across her fingers, and glared at the digits until they made sense.
You're half an hour early. Piss off.
She flicked off the light and threw her things back onto the table. Oh, Jim was a bitch in the mornings, and she knew it. Cedric sighed and ruffled his fingers through his long fringe.
Well now, aren't we as cheerful as ever?
Cedric.
I'm sorry, Jim. I really am, but Paige needs you. We can't wait any longer. We've put it off as long as possible so you could sleep, but her circuits might shut down soon.
Jim groaned and sighed all at once. Improper shutdown would lead to data loss, and Jim would feel sorry for Cedric if he had to reconfigure that cyborg's brain. It was another minute before she moved, however. Sitting up, Jim hunched over, her elbows on her knees. She rubbed hard at her eyes and continued to stare sleepily at the floor.
Sorry about earlier. When I got nasty about your speed issue. I didn't mean it.
Jim took a deep breath, not really caring.
It's okay.
I brought you some cheese, bread and a cup of tea. We even have butter today.
I'm not hungry.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just leave it on your desk then.
Cedric leaned over the tiny room space and pushed the tray onto the table.
How's the kid?
Jim stretched her back.
He's fine, I think. Someone should show him around. He's feeling understandably lost.
There was a silence, and she stood from the warmth of her bed.
I can just tell.
Right. Yeah, maybe Remus's daughter can do it.
Sure, why not? Ask William, not me.
Jim tugged off her t-shirt, and Cedric made a noise of confusion. But feeling indifferent to him, Jim stretched her arms over her head and sighed as the cold air tingled across her naked torso.
Okay then, I'll see you down there.
He swiftly left the room as Jim pulled on another, much more comfortable tank top. She swiped up her pocket watch, pulled her hair into a ponytail, tugged on her boots and gloves, and left with a stick of gum hanging out her mouth.